Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. So, I am bringing you some historical romance recommendations today. So I know some of my fellow booktubers who are part of the Romance Readathon, they were doing a collab for historical romance recommendations, and I wasn't able to squeeze out a video fast enough to collab with them or dive in. But since, a lot of people are looking for historical recs to get some extra points for their teams for the readathon, I thought I would do a quick video just recommending some of my favorite books and series as well as authors. I'll try not to go into a huge deep dive for each of these. We'll see. It tends to just happen when I try to do videos like this. But if you love recommendation videos like this, consider leaving a like or a comment about what your favorites are, or maybe consider supporting the channel through a channel membership or Patreon to let me know that you love what I do here. So let's dive into this list with a book that I enjoyed quite a bit. There is an audiobook for this one available on Anyplay, or you'll be able to find it, at any of the other fun places. And this one is a pirate romance, and it is called No Rest for the Wicked by Lauren Smith. There's actually another book in this series out already as well, but the audiobook hasn't come out yet, so I haven't read it. But this one is about a girl named Roberta, and she's traveling with her father when their ship gets attacked by pirates, and her maid end up dressing up as boys to try to escape. But when the pirate discovers them, he gives them safe places to stay until they're going to get to port, and he says, really the only safe place for you is in the room with me, but you can continue to pretend to be a boy until we get you to safety. But I really loved the romance between these two. There also is actually a very naughty pirate who's coming after her, or coming after our pirate in here, and so there's some danger coming from that aspect as well. But I thought this one was so fun. Lauren Smith actually has tons of historical romances. I've only read a couple of them so far. She also has another name called Emma. I believe it's Emma Castle is her other title. She wrote the what's it called there? Blah, 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 the Tarzan retelling that I love so much as well. So definitely check her out. Then I have currently been reading through some books by Scarlett Scott. Some of her books were first on the Audible Plus platform, which I don't think they are now, but some of her books are on Anyplay, and some of them are a part, her books, a lot of hers are on KU, so I was able to get the Audible book for just $7 for some of these. But I'm currently reading through the is it The Wicked Ladies of Mayfair? I'm not sure, but the first one is Lady Ruthless in the series, and this one is about this woman who feels like this man has wronged her family, and so she decides to start writing this naughty papers about him to get him into some trouble. But he has people who are counting on him, and so he needs this woman to stop doing it, and so he kidnaps her and forces her into a marriage with him. So this one has a bit of a dark twist as a beginning on it. So I have been loving this series. I've read the first 4 in it, and I'm very excited to read the last couple in the series as well. But I highly recommend. The audiobooks also have dual narration. It's not duet narration, but it is there's a man and a woman on these, which I love whenever I find that in historicals because it's so rare to appear. Then I want to recommend the Gilded Age Heiresage by Harper St. George. So this is a series that just completed recently. The first one is The Heiress Gets a Duke. Then there is The Devil and the Heiress, The Lady Tempts the Heir, and finally The Duchess Takes a Husband. So these ones all take place in Gilded Age New York, I believe. And they have these 4 different heiresses. Yeah, New York in the 1870s. And it has all 4 of these women finding love, and I just really liked it. It's a different kind of historical. Some of them could be a little frustrating, but overall my favorites in the series were actually the last 2, The Lady Tempts the Heir and The Duchess Takes a Husband. Particularly A Duchess Takes a Husband is great because this heroine, when she is getting married to her first husband, it happens in the first book. We see it happen, and we see just how sad it is to watch this woman be pushed into this marriage with this much older man who they know isn't going to be good to her. And through the series, eventually we see her husband die, and now she's free of him, and she has the chance to find love for herself this time. And I love getting to see a story of that. So I really appreciate this series, and I'm really excited for what this author is going to write next. All right, then I have another series to share, and this one is Mayhem and Mayfair by Grace Calloway. And this actually like begins like a world of hers. I think I really need to continue on with the next series. I own a couple of them, but I haven't got there yet. But this one actually starts with her husband's harlot. Look at that cover. These books are also on Anyplay. You can find these audiobooks anywhere. And this one actually has a couple who they have a disastrous wedding night. And so they haven't had a great relationship between the two of them. And so the heroine disguises herself as a doxy, and she tracks her husband to a body house to watch him there. And so she has this crazy interaction with him when he doesn't know that it's her. And then we find out like that Nicholas has a lot of like damage in his past and crazy things, and so he's never felt good enough for his wife, so he really tries to distance himself and keep himself away from her so he doesn't sully her, even though all she wants is to be like closer with him. So yeah, we see this series get started. So yeah, so we have her harlot, her husband's harlot, we have the wanton wager. Oh, I love, look at that big burly man. I fucking love it. Then there is her protector's pleasure, and there is her prodigal's passion. So I loved all the books in this series. Like I said, I need to continue this series by Grace Calloway. I really enjoyed her books quite a bit. So this is a great series here. Then there is a series called The Ruthless Rivals by Kate Bateman, but I am specifically recommending A Daring Pursuit. This is one that I love. This is about two rival families, and in the first book, we do see this family come together for the first time in a reckless match. These two end up together. And then these are two of the other siblings. So they've been around each other their whole lives. And the heroine has gotten a bit of a naughty reputation, but she's actually okay with it because it's keeping her from being forced into marriage. And because like her brother is well off, like she's taken care of, she doesn't have to marry anyone. But in the beginning of this book, she's actually being blackmailed. And our hero, Tristan, he comes across her being blackmailed, and he decides to try to help her get out of it. And then also they end up doing some like kiss me training type scenarios in here, and it goes from there. There also is a magical menagerie that this heroine has. She almost has like a zoo in her home, which is very interesting. So I really loved this romance. I've liked a few books by Kate Bateman, but specifically this was one of like my favorite ones I read last year, and yeah, I just love the stories that she tells for sure. Then I have one of the books that we did for the Rake Appreciation Society, and I would love to recommend Beverly Jenkins. She, of course, is going to be worth a lot of points in the readathon because this is both a historical, it's romance, and the author is Black, so this one's really going to work for it. But Topaz, this is about Kate Love, who is an ambitious newspaper woman, and then there is Dick's Wild Horse. Yeah, I know. And he is a Black Seminole Marshal for Oklahoma's Indian Territory. And so he and Kate end up in a situation where they need to get married, and she's only planning to stay married to him for a little while. But she also owes him for her father getting into some trouble, so there's an interesting dynamic with that as well. So yeah, I just really enjoyed this. I haven't read a lot of Beverly Jenkins yet, but I mean, she's definitely someone that I'm intimidated by, but I also want to read more of hers. So this is one that I have read and enjoyed, and I highly recommend it to you. Just look at that. It's beautiful. Then there is another series. I actually love this whole series. This is a series of the I can't remember if it's called The Four Brothers or what the series is called. But there's this prophecy of the four brothers that begins the series off. And it goes like this. When summer touches winter and the snow descends, the reign of the false king begins to end. 4 warriors ride together and then divide. Among them the true king hides. When he meets death on his own, that is when he reclaims his throne. So this is, of course, Bound to a Warrior by Donna Fletcher. There are audiobooks for this series as well. This is a book, this cover kind of went like mini viral with all the Bookstagram girlies a while ago, and I read this, and it was one of my first 6-star reads that I gave a book. Now, is it perfect? Would I probably still give it 6 stars? Probably not. Okay, probably not. But I fucking love this book, and it's so unique and it's fun. Yes, these two are bound together. Mercy is the name of the heroine, and our hero, his name is, I believe it's Duncan. Yeah, Duncan McAlpin. And this book begins with these two being chained together. And they are supposed to be taken before the king, who they actually all see as the false king. She has escaped from the king, and they're being dragged back there. And they take a chance to escape from their captors by jumping off a cliff together. So Mercy doesn't even know Duncan at all, and she's willing to risk it, and she can't even swim. And they jump off this cliff into the water together, and then begin their trek across the highlands to try to get to his family and get to safety. And they're bound together. Yes, they're both soaking wet from jumping in the river. Look at that mullet. Look at that thigh grab there, and like the hand veins. This has everything. Okay, so yeah, I loved this series. I read all 4 in the series, and I loved it so much. But I highly recommend. I also highly recommend you try and find a copy of this book because it's beautiful. They don't make them like this anymore, and I want it back. All right, then I have 3 independent. I have 3 independent historicals for you that I want to recommend. So one of them is actually a very darker one, and it is so powerful. I need to reread this book, but I'm also like afraid to because it's very emotional. So this is Broken Wing by Judith James. This was recommended by a viewer a few years ago now. And so this one is about Gabriel, who is a child who's abandoned and raised in a brothel. And when there is a little boy who is kidnapped and brought to this brothel, he offers himself as like the protector of this boy, and he takes the boy's punishments and he takes the boy's clients to keep him safe. And after a few years of being in this captivity, this little boy, his family comes for him. His brother and his sister come to find him, and with that is Sarah Monroe. So she blames herself for her brother being taken, and when he's located and safe, she vows to aid the man who rescued him. So she helps Gabriel and her brother like bring him back to their home, because this little boy now, he barely remembers his family. He was kidnapped when he was so little that he refuses to leave if Gabriel doesn't come with. So the brother, he buys both of them from these bad people. And now Gabriel, he's expecting to have to pay back this family for them buying him. So he thinks he's either going to have to service the brother or the sister, and they have to convince him that no, that time's done. You don't belong to anyone anymore, and his journey of healing begins. And so while this does focuses a lot on Gabriel's journey, but it definitely is a romance between him and Sarah, and it moved me so much. It's never left my mind. I read this book, I think, before I did 6-star books. But it definitely would be one that I would give 6 stars to today if I changed that retroactively, because it's beautiful. Then we have The Highwayman's Folly by Daria Vernon. This was the first book in the Rewards of Ruin series. Now, you may have seen Daria Vernon's book, the one that had to do with the swans, Get Thee Off My Lawn, which I haven't read yet, but I plan to. I know my friends like that a lot. But this was her first book. This was her debut release. And actually, Buddy read this with my friend Jo before she got back on her booktube channel. But this is about Beth Clark, and she's 30 years old. She's a spinster. She's about to be pushed into a marriage she doesn't want. And she ends up getting abducted by a highwayman named Reese Booker. And he offers her a strange salvation. So they spend this couple of nights in the Highwayman's Folly, which a folly is like a hideout or a safe place. But then, she ends up being, getting sent back to her life, but they never forget each other. And then through a twist of fate, they run into each other again years later, and he has legitimized himself to a certain degree now. And they have the chance to be together, but will they be able to make it happen? So I like this. I like that it had an older, like, spinster heroine, and I just thought the storyline was super unique. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one quite a bit. And then the last one I wanted to recommend, this one would definitely be good for the readathon as well. It's almost 600 pages, so there's that. And yeah, I just love this book so much, and I'm still waiting for the next one to come out. Although this does have kind of an ending to it. The author has been taking her sweet time getting the next one out, but that's okay. So this is Scandal by Nevessa Allen. And this one is actually a menage romance, but it starts as our heroine escapes a very, like, dangerous situation, and she gets offered marriage by one of our heroes. So one of our heroes, he is actually, he has a lover, a male lover, and he knows the best way for him to still get to be with his lover is if he finds a wife who's accepting and is okay with it. Now, our heroine, she has a brother who is gay himself, and so she is more than willing to enter in this marriage, not only to give this guy a cover, you know, give him a wife as a cover, but also then she knows she won't be expected to sleep with this man because he's gay, or for what we know. Then that all happens kind of in the beginning of this book. Then we skip ahead to they've been married a while, and she not only is falling in love with her husband, but she really likes her husband's lover as well. So we find ourselves in a bit of a pickle where she wants to make her marriage real, but she also isn't necessarily wanting her husband's lover to disappear either. So it becomes a dance of, like, can all three of us make a go of it? So I really loved this book. This is one that I don't see enough about. And again, I know Nevessa, like, she is not a full-time author. She is, like, she writes her books, like, periodically. She has a Patreon where she releases it, and then eventually as a book form. And so it's taken a while to get it out there. But I love this book so much, and so I want to push it out there because hopefully if more people have interest in it and read this and see how good it is, it would, you know, encourage her to get the next one out. But I haven't lost hope. I know that it exists and it's coming, but also, yeah, I love this story so much. So there you go, my fellow readathoners, or just people who love historical romance. Those are some that either I haven't talked about a lot lately, or I just wanted to put in front of you. I'll have links down below to all of these books. If you use my link through Amazon, it does give me a little bit of a kickback. It helps out the channel, helps support the book buying habit, as it were. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.